Grace and peace, beloved of God. This is Apostle Cheryl L. Richardson, and we're back with you on this Friday evening for our Shatter the Silence, our weekly Facebook Live discussion that focuses on raising awareness about domestic violence. Tonight's topic will be gaslighting and hoovering. Gaslighting and hoovering. And we're going to talk about how those terms are defined and what they consist of, as well as how you can begin to explore and determine if you have been a victim of gaslighting or hoovering, or if you're currently in that situation. And so we know that domestic violence is out of control. It's rampant. It's a silent epidemic even within the church. We keep emphasizing that because, you know, the church was placed here to draw people to the Lord, to strengthen those that have committed their lives to Him, to serving Him, and who are committed to fulfilling their purpose and their destiny. And these things, these plagues really that have been unleashed against society, oftentimes are rooted in church. And our practices provide a hiding place for these behaviors, a hiding place for those who engage in these behaviors. And so it's really, really important that we understand the seriousness of it. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and share. We've had some technological challenges, so we won't be able to go from two platforms at once on tonight, but we were determined that we were going to go anyway. And so we would appreciate if you would share. If you would like to sow a seed in order to partner with us in our quest and in fulfilling our mandate to raise awareness regarding domestic violence, our Cash App is Judah's Roar, JUDAHROARRR. JUDAHSROARRR. Judah's Roar. And our PayPal is paypal.me/Judah's Roar, spelled the same way. And so what I'll do is after this broadcast, I'll go back in and type that information in. If someone is on here that would like to capture the key points of what we're talking about on tonight, that would be appreciated. If not, we'll go back in and do it later. But it's important to us that we keep our commitment to bring you increased awareness and education on a weekly basis as the Lord has required of us. And we certainly don't mind doing it. We believe that it is necessary. We've posted on our timeline just today 2 more instances of domestic violence where lives were lost. And in one instance, it was an ex-boyfriend, and he murdered his former girlfriend, her current boyfriend, and her elderly grandmother. There were 2 other children in the house, preteens, and I think they were like 12 and 14. But the 14-year-old had the presence of mind to escape the house and get his younger brother out, and they hid in a shed behind the house. And that's probably the only reason law enforcement believes that they were spared, because they weren't in the house. They were able to get out undetected. So, but still how traumatizing that is for them, you know, and they'll have a long road of healing ahead of them. They later apprehended the abuser. But that's after 3 lives were lost. And that's just one instance. In another case, you know, the victim had been murdered. And so why am I sharing that? Sharing it because it's important that those of us who tend to encourage people, leave, get out of there, leave, get out of there. It's important that they leave, but it's important that they are prepared when they leave. It is vitally important that they have a viable safety plan, not something that they just threw down on a piece of paper, but something that's very well thought out. And we emphasize often, because we don't hear people emphasizing it, and we believe that it's critically important, that even if you're choosing to stay, for whatever reason, you have all these scriptures that you feel like you need to fulfill before you can leave with a clean conscience. Your mama told you don't leave yet. You got flying monkeys in your ear, and they're convincing you that you should just stay by your person no matter what. You know, we're not positioned. It's not our position to debate with you or to argue with you. Hey, Ree, to argue with you about your choice. But it is our mandate to ensure that you can make an informed decision as much as possible. And so that means being aware of the pros and cons of each possible choice that you can make. And so in staying, most times victims think, well, maybe they'll get better. 99.999% of the time, they do not. They do not. The risk that you run by staying as domestic violence escalates is that you could die. If you have children, they could be left without a parent. If you have children, they could also be victims. That's the thing. If you're wobbling and going back and forth, and you have a support system, you really endanger those who are supporting you when you go back and forth, when you waffle back and forth, because now the abuser knows for sure who your support system is. And if they feel concerned that you may actually leave, what's stopping them from harming your support system? And so when we make our choices in life, it's important that we understand that rare is the choice that we can make that only affects us. Rare is the choice that we can make that only affects us. And if we have children, there is no such choice. There's no choice that we can make that does not affect our children, no matter how old they are, one way or the other. They get to live with whatever we chose, no matter what our motivation was for choosing it. Okay, so it's important that we consider how we're affecting others. It's important that we have a safety plan, especially if we plan to stay. Statistically, we know that the most dangerous time for a victim, male or female, is when they're actually in the process of leaving. And just last week, we talked about the dangers that first responders, family members, and all of that are confronted with when they attempt to intervene. And we posted an article about a rookie police officer who was killed by the abuser as she stood by as the victim packed her belongings. So even calling the police to your residence to stand by as you pack your belongings, everyone present is at risk. You're at risk. The police are at risk. Because many abusers really don't care about the uniform. They're enraged by the uniform. They feel that the uniform is there to further cause them pain because they're narcissists. And so the whole entire universe spins on this axis for them. And that's what they believe. And so anything that is going to encourage them to move on to something else, anything that encourages that is viewed as a problem. Okay. So it's important that we make responsible, thoughtful decisions depending where we are in the abuse cycle. And really, no matter where we are, we need to know what the pros and cons are for what we're currently doing, for what we're considering doing, and we need to prepare. And blame this on my military experience, but blame it on our most stringent tasking. The most intense thing that you think may happen, how do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for that? I can tell you this. In the middle of a heated argument, when a weapon has been produced, certainly you want to try to exit. That is not a good time to try to pack a suitcase. That is not a good time to try to run through the house and pick up your kids' favorite toys. And this is why a safety plan is needed. Important documents, your identification, your marriage license, your birth certificate, your social security card, your children's vaccination records, all of these things should be kept in a safe place outside of the home so that you can access them once you exit the home. Okay. And we're not talking about safety plans today, but I'm just feeling impressed upon my heart to address this, that when we make a decision, no matter what that is, you want to make an informed decision and you want to do what is wise under the conditions that you are being confronted with in that moment. And so on tonight, we're going to talk about gaslighting and hoovering. We also want you to keep in prayer those who have had, I've got inboxes, people who have had surgeries, or I have two really, really dear friends. One's a prophet, one's an apostle. Both have adult sons who are missing, and they live on two completely different sides of the country. And so, and they're missing. They don't know where their children are. They don't know where their children are. So I'm asking you to pray with us concerning their safe return, that anything that is hidden will be exposed, because full-grown people don't disappear and no one knows anything about it. Someone knows something. And my prayer is that they don't have any peace whatsoever, none, until they share what they know. No peace until they share what they know, because this is serious. It's serious. And so please keep those lifted in prayer. There's so many missing people in the nation. There's so many people that are missing worldwide. We've got human trafficking issues. We've got domestic violence issues. We've got issues. And we need to be in prayer about all of them. But we also need to exit the prayer closet, right? Get up off of our faces and do something about this stuff. So, are you doing all that you can to raise awareness about domestic violence? That's my challenge to you tonight. I'm going to ask you to share if you have not already. And I will share to our other platforms when we are finished. But on tonight, we're going to be talking about gaslighting and hoovering. Now, gaslighting is a term that comes from the 1938 British play that was entitled Gaslight. That was the name of the play. In the play, the husband attempted essentially to make his wife go crazy, to lose her mind. And he did this by methodically, systematically playing tricks on her to cause her to question her own perceptions. It was made into a movie in 1940 and in 1944. And it was a popular movie. It was kind of creepy for its day. But he would do things that were very, very, very subtle. So gaslighting is a very subtle form of emotional abuse. Okay? Gaslighting is a very subtle form of emotional abuse. The abuser repeatedly and systematically manipulates situations in such a way that the target is overwhelmed with uncertainty regarding their own perceptions and instincts. Now, as much evil as there is in the world, and I'm a career mental health professional, I believe that this is one of the cruelest things that you can do to another human being. It is the cruelest thing that you can do to a human being, because it strips them of any degree of confidence in their own perceptions. They begin to mistrust what they see. They can be in the middle of a situation and they begin to doubt that it happened the way that they observed that it happened. They don't trust what they hear. They no longer trust their instincts. And these are things that God has given us to assist us in maintaining our own personal safety. And so if you can't trust your own judgment, that's frightening. That's frightening. And it leaves you with no support. Now, gaslighting happens over time. And like I said, it's very, very subtle. Okay? And over time, what happens is, as I said, the target becomes overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed, don't trust their own instincts, don't trust their own thought process. They can witness something with their own eyes and they will question that it occurred. Something can be done to them and they will question if it happened. They will question if it was their fault. They can, on the one hand, know that they didn't do anything to cause the abuse. And on the other hand, be confused because the gaslighter is suggesting that somehow they provoked the abuse. And so the problem isn't so much that the abuser is making these suggestions. The problem is that the victim begins to believe it. That's what gives it power. Not the fact that they say it, but when a victim embraces what the abuser is saying, that's how they gain their power. Okay? So now, why would someone choose to do that? Keep in mind, these are instincts that we develop over time, from the time that we were children. So we grow up and we learn what safety is and what it isn't. We develop some sense, and it's not the same degree of discernment that we each have, but we all have some degree of discernment regarding what is a safe situation and what isn't a safe situation, what is a positive situation and what isn't, what is healthy and what is unhealthy. When we become engaged in an unhealthy relationship and gaslighting is being utilized, it tampers with that. It tampers with our ability and our confidence in being able to judge what is safe and what isn't safe. Who can we trust and who can we not trust? And so it strips you internally, it strips you emotionally, and that's what makes it so devastating, okay? Why would somebody choose to do it? Control, control, control. It's one of the favorite tools that an abuser will use is gaslighting. Even if it never escalates because you escape, even if it never escalates to a physical abuse because you figure out, wait, something's wrong here and you get out. If you look back, extensive gaslighting occurred, or you most likely would have exited that relationship sooner. Okay? So, the ultimate goal of a gaslighter is to strip the victim of any sense of autonomy, confidence, or sanity that they have. I'm going to say it again. The entire point, the ultimate goal. And they'll take their time getting there because they're confident. They're confident that if we, as human beings that are engaged with them, if the victim hasn't discerned that something's off, the longer they stay connected, the longer they're likely to remain connected. Because as things progress, one's confidence in their ability to discern accurately, right? To be fair, to trust their instinct, to trust their gut, is being eaten away at, essentially. So, the ultimate goal is to strip the victim of any sense of autonomy, confidence, or sanity that they have. If the abuser can strip the victim of that, it almost doesn't matter what anybody else says. Because no matter what else anybody else says, there's this ongoing dialogue in their own mind about how they can't trust their judgment. The last time they thought something was wrong, it wasn't. You don't want to accuse anybody unjustly. And Lord knows if you got some flying monkeys in your ear spouting scriptures and cliches, it makes it really, really hard to hang on to your sanity, but B, to hang on to any sense of autonomy, any confidence that you have in your own ability to discern what is good for you and what isn't. Okay. And so all these things come to bear on the victim at the same time. Once this occurs, the victim will more readily believe whatever he or she is told by the abuser. Once you get worn down enough, right? It's like Stockholm syndrome. Once you get worn down enough, if you can't beat them, join them. Agree with them. And then somebody will probably pop up in your life and say, agree quickly with your enemy. That's what the Bible says, but that's not what the Bible meant. Okay. So what does this do? What is the purpose of wearing an individual down to that extent? What is the purpose of that? The purpose of it is to gain control, and it sets the stage for physical abuse. Because remember now, you stay in this phase long enough, you don't trust your judgment anymore. You don't trust your perceptions. You don't trust that they're being mean. You don't trust your belief that they're being unfair. You don't trust that you don't somehow deserve it. You don't trust that you did not do anything that warranted you being physically abused, called out of your name, threatened, spat upon, hit in the head, any of that. And it's just hard to believe after a while that, well, if I was a good person, they wouldn't be treating me this way. Well, I did have a little edge in my voice when I responded, so I provoked them. Okay, so that's how it works. So it sets the stage for physical abuse. According to Wikipedia, gaslighting is a form of manipulation that seeks to sow seeds of doubt in a targeted individual or members of a group. Now, this is really, really interesting. So we understand that gaslighting, the role that it plays in domestic violence, but in terms of the victim. But understand that gaslighting is an effective tool against those that are close to the victim and those who are close to the abuser. And this is how flying monkeys are cultivated. They too doubt their own perceptions. They too believe whatever the abuser tells them to believe. And all of this is very subtle, and it all happens over time. In the movie Gaslight, strange things would happen. Like, she turned the light on, he turned the light off. She'd say, and then the light would be back on. And she said, well, didn't I turn it off? Oh, no, you didn't turn it off. That's just an example. So little subtle things like that. Something as simple as, if you're in an abusive relationship, let's say you wear a badge to work. You wear a badge to work. Please share this. You wear a badge to work. You keep your badge and your keys in the same place. Creature of habit. But when you go to get them, you can't find them. They're not there. And you're positive that you put them there. And they insist they didn't see them there. Okay? Let's take it a step further. You're going to be late for work if you don't leave soon. Which is also a ploy that abusers use to gain control and to make your confidence in your employment shaky. Right? Because how many times can you go to work late? How many times can you call off without it being a problem? No matter how understanding your boss is, they have a job that they need completed, right? And you agreed to complete the job in accordance with their instructions when you accepted the job. And so one key thing, no matter what the job is, that you get there on time, right? But you can't get there if you can't find your keys that you're pretty sure you put in the same place you've always put them, except they're not there right now. What the abuser will do is to help you look for them. Let you get all frantic, help you look for them. And then they may save the day by finding them in the same place that you thought you put them in the first place, in the same place that you thought that you had looked. Or they'll find them someplace that you never put them. And then they'll insist, well, you must have moved them because I wouldn't have moved them. So as simple as that seems, if you do that often enough, with enough small things, a person begins to question their memory. They begin to question their own thought process. How am I doing things? I don't know that I'm doing them. Am I losing my mind? What is happening? Okay. So that's how gaslighting works. Gaslighting techniques are difficult to identify, and they are used to hide the truths that the abuser doesn't want the target or victim to realize. What the abuser doesn't want you to understand is that you are a capable human being with value. They don't want you to understand that you do bring something to the table, that you do contribute to society. They don't want you to understand that there is greatness in you and that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to. They don't want you to understand that you can be just fine, although it might be a little painful initially, but that you can go on with your life and flourish without them in it. They don't want you to realize that. And so the mind games continue, okay? The mind games continue. So remember that gaslighting is very subtle. It's hard to identify. And what further complicates it for people of faith is that we have all these rules about not judging other people, not thinking negatively. There's good in everybody. Side note, no, there isn't. That's what the Bible says. We need to believe it, but it's not the truth, okay? There's not good in everybody. Matter of fact, we all came here jacked up. That's what the Bible says. And it's through relationship with Him that all of that gets refined and our trajectory is corrected so that we don't spend an eternity separated from Him. Okay? That's what the Bible says. Not this other stuff that we be telling folks. So, gaslighting techniques are difficult to identify, and they are used to hide the truths that the abuser doesn't want the target or victim to realize. And I just told you what some of those things are. The other thing that makes gaslighting so powerful is if you go to talk to somebody about it, you don't have any evidence, right? You don't have any proof that they're trying to make you feel crazy. You can't prove it. And when you share it with someone, they may very well think, well, you're being overly sensitive. You aren't being understanding, etc., etc. Okay, so people will make you feel like you're being judgmental when you try to talk to them about something that you can't prove because you no longer trust your own feelings. If I put my keys on the kitchen table, and that's where I always put them, and I know I put them there, when you're in a healthy place, can't nobody tell you you didn't put them there, because you know you put them there. And if you know you didn't move them, somebody else had to move them. Now let's think about this. There's only 2 of us in the house right now. If I didn't move them, it had to be you. A healthy person can deduce that. A person who's been subjected to gaslighting over a period of time begins to question, well, maybe I didn't put them there. Well, maybe they're right, maybe I didn't. Well, okay, I don't want to be judgmental, and I don't want to accuse them of something that I can't prove. And we talk ourselves out of our basic instincts that have served us well our entire life, in most cases. Okay, so that's how it works. Now, there's a technique. There are techniques. Listen, did y'all know that? There are techniques to gaslighting. This is not just this one-stop shopping. There are some techniques. And it takes a degree of skill to implement these things and appear to be genuine and appear to be concerned and supportive of the victim all at the same time. Sometimes the abuser's not even trying to pretend that they're being supportive and understanding. They are not even trying to do that at all, period. They just go off. Okay? But so either way, the way they utilize the technique tends to make the victim look like the guilty party. Okay? And then if you become exasperated because you're trying to explain to people that you are in fact telling the truth, then you look a little crazy to them. So it's kind of like a catch-22. So we're going to talk about some gaslighting techniques, okay? Because like I said, it's a skill, and some abusers are so skilled at it that they can pull it off without being detected if you don't know what to look for, okay? So we're going to try to help you to know what to look for so that you can know if this is what's being utilized with you, and understand it doesn't have to be an intimate partner relationship. This can apply to anybody, and groups of people can be subjected to gaslighting. Okay? So here we go. Number 1, okay, and this is not an exhaustive list, but this is enough for you to help to know what to look for in your own life. Withholding. The abuser pretends a lack of understanding, refuses to listen, and declines sharing emotions. And they might say something like, I'm not listening to that foolishness again. Oh, you talking about that again? That's all you ever talk about. You really need to come to grips with life as it is, you know. That's all you do is complain. That's all you do is whine, okay? Or they'll say, you're changing the subject. That was in the past. Well, technically 5 minutes ago was the past, right? So that's not a valid argument. But these are things that they will say in an attempt to withhold from you what they've already identified that you need. Let me tell you something. 9 times out of 10, especially if the victim is a woman, you know, there's a tendency for women to spout all over the place what they need. And there's no problem with that as long as you're sharing with someone who gives a doggone about what you need. If, on the other hand, you're sharing all of this with someone who could care less about what you need, then what you have done is give them a laundry list of things that they can withhold from you, okay? Things that they can withhold from you in order to inflict further pain and to gain greater control. And so my advice to anyone entering into a new friendship, a new relationship, or whatever, is do not vomit all over the place about what you need and what you didn't get from your last situation. Because unless you have had some intense counseling and have identified why you fell for that in the first place, whatever it was that hurt you in the past, you are providing a ready-made list to the next person. And I cannot tell you how many victims contact me and say these words. I met this guy. I thought I was ready to start dating again. He was wonderful. He loved my children. And he was supportive and loving and kind until he wasn't. Now he's cursing me out. And now he's doing this and now he's doing that. And he's mean to my kids. And he's doing everything that I told him that my ex did. And he even said when we first met that that was terrible. And he didn't know what was wrong with that person to have treated me in such a horrible manner. And now he's doing the same thing. Well, he knew exactly what to do. He didn't have to do any exploration because you told him exactly what to do to gain control. Okay, and so we have to use wisdom, and we need to be able to give things time. And if you feel like you're being rushed, or even if you're rushing yourself, slow it all the way down. Oftentimes victims lose their lives and they weren't even married to the person. They weren't even common law. They weren't with them 6 or 7 years. They were with them 1 year. They were with them 6 months. So there's no magic timeline for how long is it safe to stay in a relationship with someone who is mentally unbalanced. There's no timeline. So it's important, and this is why we do these Facebook Lives, to provide you with tangible information that you can look at when you're out there meeting folk and understand what a red flag is and when you probably ought to get out of there. And some things don't warrant further exploration. Some things, if they show up, you just need to deuces. You just need to go. Okay, you just need to go. So withholding is one thing that they do. They act like they don't understand. They act like you're beating a dead horse. You're talking about that again. That's all you ever do is complain. And so it's all your fault. And they act like they cannot grasp what you're concerned about at all. Okay. Number 2, countering. The abuser vehemently calls into question the victim's memory in spite of the victim having remembered things correctly. There was a disagreement 2 weeks ago. During the disagreement, the abuser called you whatever he called you. 2 weeks later, you mention this to the abuser because you'd like to have an understanding, okay? The abuser said, that didn't happen. What's wrong with you? You're making things up. That conversation, I never said that. I would never say such a thing to you, okay? So countering. The abuser vehemently calls into question the victim's memory in spite of the victim having remembered things correctly. Now, they know that what you're saying is accurate, and they are flat out lying in an attempt to make you feel crazy. And then they'll say things like, you have memory problems. You remember that last time you thought you remembered something and it wasn't right. Chances are it was, but they'll tell you it wasn't, okay? The last time you were positive, you were wrong, remember? And in the off chance that in your humanity, because you are human, you thought something and it was proven to be inaccurate, they'll hold that against you too. You remember you thought X, Y, and Z, and that wasn't the case, and you were positive then too. That is designed to get you to question your own ability to recall things accurately, because if you're recalling things inaccurately, then it's not fair, is it? And if you're faith-based, then all kinds of scriptures will pop into your head, and somebody will say it to you, and it may even be your pastor. It might be your best friend. It might be one of his flying monkeys, one of her flying monkeys. Okay, to reiterate how we should not judge. Okay. Number 3, blocking and diverting. The abuser will change the subject. You bring up the subject, they're going to change the subject. Okay. Another example would be that they question the victim's thoughts. Now, is that another crazy thought? And this is, I call this the bait and switch. Is that another crazy thought that you got from that church you're going to? Is that another crazy thought from you fill in the blank, whoever they view as a support? Is that another crazy idea that you got from that pastor of yours, that therapist of yours, that best friend of yours? Is that where you getting this stuff from? Is that another crazy idea that you got from that support group that you belong to on Facebook? Is that one of those crazy ideas that you got from you fill in the blank? Whoever they believe is a support is whose name they will fill the blank with, okay? Or they'll tell you, you're imagining things. You're exaggerating. Why do you do that? Why do you exaggerate? I never said that. That didn't happen. And it can be something that you know that you witnessed, okay? And they will adamantly vehemently deny that it ever occurred and express real concern for your mental health. If you're already seeking mental health counseling, they will suggest that you get back with your therapist because you're really having issues and it's starting to affect the relationship. Okay, this is all gaslighting, all of it. Number 4, trivializing. Trivializing makes the victim's needs or feelings seem unimportant. Something happens that's upsetting to the victim. They verbalize, this hurt me, this offended me, this is concerning to me, this is detrimental to our relationship, to our family, to our future, or whatever. And the abuser will say something like, the gaslighter will respond with something along the lines of, are you stuck on that again? Are you bringing that up again? You getting upset over something that small? Really? You are making a mountain out of a molehill. You are making a big deal. You a drama queen or king. You just like drama. You just like your cousin, your mama, your grandmama, your best friend. All those people you listen to. Okay? When they really start to feel confident, they'll combine some of these techniques. They'll minimize how you feel. They'll trivialize it and act like you're overreacting. And then they'll act like you're a little crazy because it never happened in the first place. Okay? So, let's talk about another instance. Abusive forgetting or denial. The abuser pretends to forget things that have recently occurred. They forget. I don't know what you're talking about. What? No, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. If that happens often enough, you either have to come to the conclusion that they're a lying wonder, right? Which is the conclusion that a healthy person would come to. Or you begin to question your own ability to remember things accurately. And if you can remember things, but there's a question about its accuracy, how do you make decisions about your life based on what you believe occurred, right? So again, everything that a person who is using these gaslighting techniques, everything that they do is geared toward paralyzing the victim, gaining control of the victim, okay? This may look like they may deny promises that were made that are important to the target or the victim. They promised you that you could go out for a special dinner with them on your birthday or Valentine's Day or Christmas Eve or whatever. When that time comes around, they have no idea what you're talking about. We can't afford it. I never would have told you that. They may tell you we're going on a vacation this summer. And then as the time comes, like, what are you talking about? No, I have to work. I never would have told you that. I didn't say we were going anywhere. Okay? So that's abusive forgetting or denial. They'll ask you, what are you talking about? They may say that you're lying. Stop lying. Stop lying. Why do you keep saying these things? I would never say those things to you. Okay? Gaslighting. Or they'll get defensive. I don't have to put up with this, I'm tired of you accusing me of things that I haven't done. You could have seen them do it. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm tired of you accusing me of things that I haven't done. And if you keep it up, I'm going to leave you. Okay. If there wasn't some concern on the victim's part about being without that relationship, they would have realized before now that something was off. But our need to stay connected, our resistance to accepting that maybe we've made a horrible investment emotionally in this individual or this situation or this group that we belong to, that it was an unwise choice, okay? Our resistance to acknowledging that fuels the gaslighter, because what they know is this person is invested on some level in this situation, in this relationship, and they want and need my approval, and they want and need my acceptance. So let me up the ante and continue with my shenanigans, and before long, I will have firmly set the stage for physical abuse. Okay? In extreme cases, the gaslighter may actually set the stage to engage in gaslighting techniques. For example, and I mentioned this previously, moving the target's work badge from the usual place and helping to find it, causing the victim to feel that they've misplaced it. Okay. This can take place under a variety of different circumstances. Your work keys, the checkbook, car keys. You went grocery shopping and bought their favorite pie. Pie's gone, but you know you bought it. You can't find a receipt to prove it. And they say they never saw a pie. Okay. There's no pie in the refrigerator. You can't find the receipt. You think now. You were positive at first, but now you just think you bought a pie. Because they are so adamant that there is no pie, that surely there's no pie, right? And so this is how gaslighting works. Now let's look at how you can get an indication of if you are a victim or have been a victim of gaslighting, okay? Do you constantly second guess yourself? Do you constantly second guess yourself? And you didn't used to be like that. You used to be more confident, but now you're unsure of yourself. Difficult for you to make any decisions, okay? Do you frequently wonder if you are too sensitive? I am too sensitive. My feelings get hurt too easily. And if you stop and think about it, they probably suggest this to you periodically, that you're blowing things out of proportion, that you get excited too easily, that you're being unreasonable, that you're a drama king or queen, you're attention seeking, you're needy. Okay. Number 3, do you often feel confused or a little crazy? You feel confused? You feel a little crazy? You don't feel quite like yourself? I've had several people say that to me here lately. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Okay, it's time for you to check who's around you. Who is around you? And what does crazy feel like on your planet? Let's talk about that. Okay. If you're feeling off balance and you're feeling chaotic internally, there's something wrong externally. There's something going on. And on some level, you're aware that something's going on. But on the other hand, you don't want to accept what it is that you're discerning, okay? And that thought process is what keeps us locked into an abusive situation. Our unwillingness to acknowledge that maybe we're not the one that's crazy. Maybe the other person's got some stuff going on, okay? Do you find yourself always apologizing? Always. We've got these cute little cliches that people like to use about, it's better to save your relationship than to be right. Okay, that works if you're dealing with a healthy person. Healthy people don't need to be right all the time. Somebody that needs to be right all the time has got something going on anyway. Okay, that's the first thing. But if you find yourself always apologizing, here's a cliche for you. A broke clock is right at least twice a day. There's 24 hours in a day. 2 of those hours, a clock that is broken is right. You cannot be wrong all the time. Statistically, that makes no sense. You have to be right sometimes just by accident. It might not even be intentional, but you're not wrong all of the time. So if you're finding yourself apologizing all of the time, that's a little suspect. That's a little suspect. If you find yourself apologizing all the time to keep the peace, at some point you're not being genuine and you're not being authentic. You're lying, because unless you believe you were wrong, okay. If you don't believe you were wrong, now you're lying, and that's a whole nother thing that the enemy will use to keep you ensnared in an abusive situation. Because now you're calling things that are not as though they are, and it's not even scriptural. Okay. The flip side of that is, if you really believe that you're that wrong all of the time, then you need to seek some help about that, because it's not very likely that you are. Okay. Do you find yourself unable to understand why you aren't happier? Maybe you have a nice house, and maybe you have a nice car, and maybe you have family around, and maybe you have all the trappings of life that you think should make you happy, and maybe you go to church, and maybe you believe that you're a person of faith, but you're not happy, and you cannot put your finger on why you're not happy. Somewhere in your life, something is draining you. Whatever it is that's draining you probably stands up on 2 legs. and may even live in the same house with you. But something is depleting you. Okay? So you want to examine your relationships. And remember, it doesn't have to be a boyfriend, girlfriend. It doesn't have to be a husband, wife. It doesn't have to be an intimate relationship in that regard. But someone who is close enough to you that their opinion matters to you. You value their opinion. You value their company. Part of how you define yourself is based on how they perceive you and what they reflect back to you concerning you. So if you have this underlying unhappiness and you can't put your finger on it, something around you is draining you, and it probably walks around on two legs and talks. Okay? And they probably spend a significant amount of time in your space, or you'd be able to recover from them depleting you in the first place. Number 6, do you find yourself making excuses for your partner's behaviors? You find yourself making excuses. Maybe someone else notices they're kind of rude when they talk to you, or why do they look at you like that, or why are they so harsh when they talk to you? Oh, well, they had a bad day. Oh, they were dropped on their head at birth. Oh, they had a hard day at work. They're frustrated. They've got a lot going on. Oh, maybe it's a midlife crisis. Do you find yourself making excuses for unacceptable behavior? Is it kind of a habit? Do you get defensive when people mention how obnoxious your person is, how harsh they are, how controlling they are? You feel that you must protect and defend. Real good chance you're a gaslighting victim. Okay? So gaslighting. Gaslighting, to summarize what gaslighting is, it's very subtle. It's a form of emotional abuse. The whole purpose is to strip the victim or the target of any sense of autonomy or stability or confidence or competence that they may have. And they really want you to feel a little crazy so that they can better control you. And if they can convince you that you're a little crazy, then you'll help them convince everybody else that you're a little crazy, because you'll start accepting, well, maybe it's me. I think it's me. I think I'm overreacting. I think, maybe I'm attention seeking. I think it's me. Okay. So they know that they're being effective when you start helping them to convince people that you're the problem. Okay. So that's what gaslighting is. And it's used in abusive situations. It usually shows up fairly early on. It's very subtle. It's difficult to prove. And that's why I gave you those lists of things to consider, so that you may consider, well, maybe I am a victim of gaslighting. I can guarantee you, if you're in an abusive situation, some gaslighting occurred at some point. I promise you it did. That's why you're still in it, if you're still in it, okay? That's why it took you so long to leave, if you stayed in it a long time before you left, all right? Now let's talk about hoovering. Hoovering is like gaslighting after you left, okay? So let's say you're in an abusive situation and you manage to leave your abusive situation. Then the shenanigans began. That's what I call it. So hoovering is a term that is named after the Hoover vacuum cleaner. I don't know if it still is, but at one point in time it was considered a state-of-the-art vacuum cleaner. Hi, Barbara Ann. It was considered a state-of-the-art vacuum cleaner, right? Top of the line. And abusers are really, really good at it. They are really, really, really good at it. First off, they probably use gaslighting to get you ensnared and to get you all tangled up and confused and feeling a little crazy in the first place, okay? So, hoovering are techniques used by abusers or narcissists to suck their victim back in because they are running low on supply. Now, the thing about an abuser is this. They are narcissistic, which means the entire world, as far as they are concerned, was created to meet their needs. That was the whole point. That's the whole point. You were born. That's the whole point. I was born. Everybody was born to provide them with whatever they think they deserve, which is everything. They think they deserve everything, and other people don't count and don't deserve anything. Okay? So, these are the techniques that they use to get you back in after you leave. You leave and you're so proud of yourself, right? Because you left. I got out. Whew. I got out. I had a plan. It worked like clockwork. I'm a little nervous, but I think I can be okay now. And then the hoovering starts. Okay? Here we go. You ready? Typically this happens when something's not going their way, because everything, remember, is supposed to go their way all the time. That's how they feel about it. So they've not been able to replace you with someone that would sacrifice all that you have. Or they thought they had a replacement. The replacement said, something wrong here, I'm out. And they got out too fast. Typically, it means that they don't have a supply to feed their narcissistic ego. And they need a supply. They're like zombies. They got to be sucking the life out of somebody, or they don't feel alive themselves, okay? And so, if you manage to get away and they don't find a suitable replacement, because sometimes they don't feel like starting over, okay? Sometimes they don't feel like starting over with a brand new, almost healthy person that they have to now do the whole gaslighting thing. They got to talk you into believing you look crazy. That takes time. And sometimes they're impatient. So when they get impatient, which is why sometimes they'll try to have you and somebody else, because they're working on somebody else. And they're not quite there yet where they can get all their needs met yet. But they had you broken in real good, so they come back to you. They try to find things that they know you will respond to. They will use their children. They will use your children. They will use their relationship with your children that wasn't even their children. They will use your relationship with their children that weren't even your children, okay? Harping on that part of you that wants to be a nurturer and wants to be supportive. And what about that relationship? And he and I, or she and I broke up, but that had nothing to do with the kids and they shouldn't suffer because of it. They will utilize all those things, all those beliefs that we have that hold us hostage when we grasp a hold to them in an unhealthy manner. They will use that to pull you back in. Okay, they will. And typically it's something that they already know that we will find value in. They know that if you love children, and if you're the kind of person that developed a relationship with their children, they will use their children to pull you back in. They will cultivate flying monkeys. Okay? Their own children. And have the children reach out to you. Either with a I miss you thing, or life is horrible without you thing, or I have this problem, I have this need, and you're the only person I can talk to. Okay? So the children involved in a situation can become unwitting flying monkeys. They're just trying to get their need met. Maybe they do miss you. Maybe you did have an amazing relationship with them. Maybe you did make them feel better about themselves. But that's not the reason that the contact is being encouraged. The contact is being encouraged to pull the victim back in to a place where they submit to the abuser's demands. Okay? So, most likely something's not going the way they want it. And so here they come back at you. They send messages as though nothing has ever happened. Now, if you've had a very tumultuous, violent, aggressive, angry, draining relationship with someone, there's nothing you want more, right, than to interact with that person in the way that you interacted with them when the relationship was brand new and fresh and exciting, before their head started spinning around and before they started spitting out green stuff, right? So if you're a victim, you crave a peaceful, loving, supportive relationship with the abuser. And that's what they've not been willing to provide you. So now you've gotten out, you have a job, you got your own little place, you're starting to build your confidence up and feel better about yourself. Now here they come. Here they come. And they're not ranting and they're not screaming and they're not cursing you out. And they're supportive and they're concerned. And they know you tend to have headaches. Have you been taking your medication? Have you been keeping your appointments? Are you keeping gas in the car? Any fears or anxieties that they know that you had, they'll exploit those as well. They won't talk at all about the fact that they put you in the hospital, the fact that they hit you and left a bruise, the fact that they strangled you, the fact that they talked about your mother, they threatened the pets. They won't say anything. It'll be just like old times, right? Just like old times. If you're not careful, you'll get sucked all the way back in. And it's just like any other addiction. It'll pick right up where it left off, because it typically doesn't take long for them to start cutting up again, whether the abuser is a man or a woman. Okay? So it's important to know that. So they send messages as though nothing has ever happened. Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they use a special occasion to try to regain contact. Well, I know you and I were having issues, but you and Mama got along really well. And it's her 89th birthday. And everybody doesn't live to be 89. And she loves you so much. Won't you come to Mama's birthday party? Even if you don't stay, just make an appearance so that she can see you. It would make her so happy. And it's a surprise party, so don't tell her. Or, would you come to the family reunion? Now, here's the thing. Here's the tricky thing about all these special occasions. It's Christmas. It's our anniversary. You know, we always enjoy Christmas together. We always celebrate a birthday. I know it's your birthday. Let me take you out. You know, just for old time's sake. No pressure. Okay? Any occasion that they understand is special to you, or any occasion that they know that you will lend credence to because you know it's special to them. Okay? But it's not unusual for a child's birthday, christening, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, birthday, anniversary of the first time we met. Can we just start all over? It's not unusual for them to use a special occasion to reach out, to suck you back in. Because again, something's not going as planned, or it's taken the new supply too long to become submissive. She's not quite there yet. He's not quite there yet. Okay? Number 4. They ask random questions. And they want you to focus on the relationship as it was. They want you to focus on the good times. Remember the time that we went to Las Vegas? And we went to that Celine Dion concert and how amazing it was. And we had a great time. Remember that time we had a barbecue in the park with the kids and how much fun they had? All the work we did to blend our families. Remember the time that we took our moms out to dinner after church on Mother's Day? Remember? So they want you to focus on the positive. Remember what brought us together in the first place. Sometimes a therapist will tell you that if you're having problems in a relationship. I'm telling you, it does not apply to an abusive situation. It does not. Doesn't. Don't fall for that. Okay. All right. Number 4. I was thinking about you. I was just thinking about you. Which being translated means you should be thinking about me too, and everybody in the world should only be thinking about me. I was just thinking about you. And you should be thinking about me. That's what they're thinking. Because I'm all that matters at the end of the day. Okay? So, what does a victim want more than to be in the thoughts of their abuser, that they've invested so much of themselves, so much of their time, so much of their, maybe even their finances, their energies, they've sacrificed, poured into this relationship, poured into this individual who was withholding and denying and engaging in abusive forgetting, all those things that we described as gaslighting. And then you get away and you have questions, right? And you want to know, why did they treat me that way? And what is so horrible about me? And so what a victim wants, right, is acceptance from the person that broke them in the first place. And the abuser knows this. And so that's why hoovering oftentimes is effective. And the reason we know that it's effective is because on average, a woman will leave her abuser 7 times before she leaves and stays away for good. And that's if she lives to even do it 7 times. And that's just an average number. So there are times when it's more than that. And there are times when it's less than that. But on average, it's 7 times. 7 times of things escalating to a point where the victim feels, I can no longer do this. And they leave. And then hoovering takes place, hoovering takes place and they get sucked back in. So when a victim leaves the abuser and goes back in, it's a response to hoovering. Okay, it's a response to this manipulation that we are talking about. Hey, Kelly. Okay, another hoovering technique. I told you I was thinking about us. Okay, which means you should be thinking about me. And then they will use your kids. They will use your kids. They will manipulate their own kids. And I've experienced it. I mean, like years later, it's like, what? Who is this? This is so and so, and I'm having a crisis. Not doing it. Not doing it. And let me just say this, especially for those of you who consider yourself a person of faith. In order to withstand hoovering and gaslighting, you are going to have to decide that you're going to stand against the traditional legalistic things that we are taught in church that keeps everybody a hostage, that keeps you locked into an abusive, unhealthy situation. Okay? You cannot operate the same way. You cannot operate, well, because me and the dad didn't work out, or because me and the mom didn't work out. That has nothing to do with that child, and we had a really good relationship. That is still their child at the end of the day. And there's a very real chance that that's a flying monkey operating, unbeknownst to them themselves. Okay? They don't even realize that they're being manipulated. They don't even realize that it's being subtly suggested that they reach out to you because you're the one person they can talk to them. Who am I talking to right now? If you are going to leave an abusive situation and regain some sense of competency, autonomy, and sanity, what you will need to do is cut off contact with everybody, regardless of age. Regardless of age. Okay? Their mama, grandmama, cousin, children, you're going to have to cut contact with anybody who loves them, supports them, is afraid of them, intimidated by them, or easily manipulated by them. Because they've been working on these people their whole life. So they pretty much have it in the bag in terms of how far they can manipulate them. Okay? So you have to cut contact. That means you can't go run into the school to talk to the school count. That's not your role anymore. That's not your role. That's not your role. And oftentimes, these little crises are manufactured in order to position the victim so that your life can be snatched. So that your life can be snatched. Because what they understand is what you respond to as a victim. They understand what your core values are. They understand what you will take a stand about. They understand what you will become selfless about. Okay? All right? It's important. It's important. You can't escape a situation and function the same way. Because the enemy is intimately familiar with how you function under those conditions. Okay? So you got to change it up. You have to change it up. Okay? What's another one? Oh, yeah. They will invite you to spend an extended period of time with them. Now, when you were with them, you couldn't get them to do nothing with you, right? You couldn't get them to go to a movie. That's 2 hours. You couldn't get them to go for a walk in the park. That could be 30 minutes. They didn't want to do anything with you except fight with you. But now, the one thing you always wanted to do, a romantic vacation. Let's go to San Diego. Let's go to Las Vegas. Let's get reacquainted all over again. Let's not. Let's not get acquainted again. Okay? Let's not do that. So they'll invite you to spend an extended period of time, especially if that's something that they've always deprived you. Compliment you. Oh, you look good. Okay, so typically the abuser will want you to think that you're ugly, you're unattractive, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too light, you're too dark, you're too something, your hair is too long, your hair is too straight, your hair is too curly. You wear those wigs. Oh, you wear a weave. Oh, you wear your hair natural. Whatever you were doing was not sufficient, right? They didn't find it attractive. You're the most hideous human being on the face of the earth. But now that you've gotten away, you look good. If you're not careful, your little ego will get stroked because you've been needing that from them the entire time and they withheld it now. Remember? Here's the thing, and this isn't even in my notes. If they start offering you things that they withheld from you before, they're hoovering you. Hoovering you. Well, I talked to my therapist and they said that because you want to go out once a week, that I should be willing to do it. And I've been selfish, so let's go out. A good narcissist will manipulate a green therapist. They will. They will. Okay. So they'll compliment you. Oh, I like your hair that way. Especially if you change something. You change the way you dress. You're dressing a different style. You're more confident. You're not dressing all frumpy and carrying on, right? Maybe you're wearing makeup and you didn't wear makeup before. Maybe you're wearing your hair a different way. You got a haircut. You're remaking yourself. You feeling good about yourself. You're regaining your confidence. Oh, that looks good. Don't you fall for that. They're hoovering you, okay? Or they will feign a crisis. They will pretend that they are in crisis and you are going to have to get on your stallion and rescue them because they won't talk to anybody but you. They won't talk to anybody but you. Okay? Now, I can tell you from personal experience. I've had that attempted on me many times. Okay? Many times. And when you think about it, it's kind of shrewd because I'm a trained mental health professional, right? So what do? We respond to crisis, don't we? Is that not what we do? We don't run from crisis. We don't run from crisis. We don't create crisis, but we don't run from crisis. And we believe that crisis is workable. There's a way out of this thing. If you got in it, the law of physics, there's a way out. There was an opening to get in it. There's an opening to get out. It might be a little bit narrow. You might have to leave some stuff behind, but you can get out. Okay? That's what we think. So if you want my attention, you got to create a crisis. And they need to be a good one. It needs to be a good one. It needs to be a good one. It needs to be a real good crisis, right? So your abuser may threaten suicide. Your accuser may threaten homicide. If they have an active arrest warrant or something, they may threaten to engage with the cop and I'm going to just die death by cop. They might threaten to go drink if they're supposed to be in recovery, right? They may threaten to go to the dope house if they're supposed to be in recovery. If they've been in recovery a year, 2, 3 years, if you don't come back to me, if you don't at least have dinner with me, if you don't at least let me spend the night, I'm going to go get high. I'm going to go have a drink. Okay? Creating a crisis and trying to cause you to feel obligated to prevent the crisis. That's a trap. And I will tell you right now, from a professional standpoint, if they care that little about themselves, they really don't care about you at all. And if they are thinking about harming themselves, there ain't nothing stopping them from harming you too. So in the event you get a phone call like that, then you should just call the authorities and say, so-and-so just called me and they indicated that they were suicidal. And then you've done what you're supposed to do. Even if you're a person of faith, right? You've done what you're supposed to do. You have alerted the authorities that this person is feeling unsafe. But there is no reason for you to step into that. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. They will, like I said, they'll create a crisis. Whatever crisis they're pretty sure you will respond to is the crisis that they will create. And oftentimes they will engage in some level of self-harm to get you to respond to that. And there are times when they actually will follow through and do it. But in a case like that, there was nothing you could do to stop it anyway. They'd already decided what they were going to do. Okay. So in the event that you are presented with a crisis, concerning the children, concerning someone's health, then call the proper authorities. That's what you do. You don't go. You call the proper authorities. Okay? Call the proper authorities. Okay? All of this is hoovering. So gaslighting is emotional abuse. Usually that begins early on in the relationship and continues on. Hoovering is what happens after you get away. So no matter how great your escape was and how much you celebrated, you're going to probably be subjected to some hoovering. It may happen on social media. This is why we advise people to either come off of social media yourself, block everybody remotely connected to the abuser. Any and everybody. No exception. That way, his or her flying monkeys don't have access to your psyche 24/7. They don't have access to your friends list 24/7. They don't have the ability to cultivate and develop new flying monkeys from unsuspecting friends on your friend list who have no idea of what you've been through with them. Okay? So you want to stop all contact. If you join a Facebook group, if you join a group, make sure it's a closed group. And I will tell you this. I don't know how closed a group can be with 5,000 members. I just don't know how closed it can be. I don't know who's scrutinizing who's coming into these groups. And I guarantee you've got some abusers that have slipped through. Because it's impossible. It's impossible if you have that many people to be able to vet them individually and know for sure that they are not in there for the wrong reason. Okay? So you want to be careful. You want to be careful. You want to be careful about, if you stay on social media, accepting friend requests from people who have only activated their account 5 minutes ago, a year ago. The only things posted on their timeline are profile pictures. It's probably a fake profile. Okay? So, you want to be careful. You want to cut all contact. Expect for hoovering to occur. Understand if you're in a domestic violence situation, then gaslighting has already occurred and it's probably occurring in an ongoing manner, or you would have been gone by now. Okay? So tonight we've talked about gaslighting and hoovering in the past, and you can see our videos. We'll probably do a watch party on tonight so that you're able to get on. You can share. I'll share the video to my personal page and also to Apostle Cheryl L. Richardson page. And that way you can do a watch party. You can start a watch party with your friends or whatever you want. Okay, so we've got like 6 or 7 videos out there. You can go to Lion of Judah Global Impact Ministries Facebook page, which is the page that this is being broadcast from, and check out our other videos. We've got like 7 or so now. And we've done an overview. We've done safety planning. We have talked about gun violence. We've talked about when domestic violence in the workplace converge. And so we're trying to cover topics, and we're covering things as the Lord leads us to cover them. Next week, we will come to you on Saturday afternoon. We're trying to move the times around so that it's not, we've got a lot of international followers. We have like over 19,000 people on our Facebook page. But this time of day is not a good time of day for them, of course, because there's 7-8 hours difference in time. And so we want to be able to afford them an opportunity to interact with us in real time and not just after the fact. And so we'll probably be coming a lot on Saturdays so that we can come in the mid-afternoon so that those of us in the United States, no matter what time zone, are able to access it. And then our international partners are able to access it and to benefit from active live interaction as well. Feel free to inbox me. Know that we are praying for you. We thank God for you. We are convinced that as horrible as this issue is, even within the church, that together we can impact this thing. We can get ahead of this thing. We want to remind you that we do have a closed Facebook group. It's a small group. We're not going to allow it to get so big because we want to ensure the safety of those who belong to the group and their privacy. We want them to feel free to share their stories and to garner support from the rest of us that are in the group. If you come to the group as a ministry leader or someone in a position of authority and find at some point that you need support yourself, then that's fine. That's why we're there. That's why we're there. And we encourage ministry leaders to come in to a place where they can be transparent about what their experience has been, even if it's been 15 or 20 years. if you didn't address it effectively, I don't care if you wait 20 years. Your next relationship is going to probably be a hot mess. It will. It'll be the same spirit, that same critter in a different suit, different dress, different cologne, different perfume, different car, different job title. Okay? Same spirit. It'll be so familiar. Once you get in it, you'll be like, oh my God. Okay? So I'm encouraging everyone who has ever experienced a domestic violence situation, get into some counseling before you embark on another relationship. Okay? Our closed Facebook group is Dominion Over Domestic Violence. You can click on it and ask to join, and then I'll review it. There's a few questions that I need for you to answer because, again, I want to ensure the safety of everyone and the privacy of everyone in the group. Feel free to post things within the group. If you are a group member, feel free to post, positive things, share your story, whatever we need to do just so that we can be okay. All right. And so we thank God for you. We ask that you would remember us in prayer. Again, if you want to sow a seed, it's definitely fertile ground. You can apply. You can sow at PayPal, paypal.me/JudasRoar, JudasRoarr. And then our Cash App is Judas Roar. What else? You can enroll in our online course. You can subscribe to our blog, which is also called Judas Roar, www.judasroar.com, JUDAHS, capital ROAR -R. Judas Roar is the name of the blog, okay? So you can sign up for that. And if you do, then you'll be emailed automatically a safety planning guideline, which is something good for you to have. Even if you're not in a domestic violence situation, someone around you is. Guarantee it. And you want to be able to advise them, in an effective manner and in as safe a manner as possible. So, all right. Apostle Cheryl L. Richardson here. We'll be back on next week, and we're going to be looking at toxic relationships and how they are dream killers and destiny destroyers. Toxic relationships. Okay? So keep your eyes peeled for that flyer. I'll be posting it later this evening, and we'll be back on next Saturday afternoon. Blessings to you.